Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You're in the Prog Corner, man. Today, we're going to be looking at Sweden's finest retro prog band, the Flower Kings, their 16th album. It drops September 8th on Inside Out Music. It's called Look at You Now, and I'm really excited because you guys know how much I love the Flower Kings. One of my favorite bands of all time. Had this album for like 3 weeks now. Thank you to the label for getting those advanced copies out early so reviewers have a little bit of time to live with an album. You know, this is prog rock, man. You need a few spins to figure it out. And honestly, this one here did not hit me at all at first. I was disappointed the first 3 or 4 spins. I was not digging it because their last album by Royal Decree was an absolute winner. 5 out of 5. I absolutely adored it. So what's different this time around? Well, before I get into that, first of all, I have come around. This is a grower. These songs do get better and better upon repeat listens, but this is just kind of an odd release for the Flower Kings. Essentially, they're down to a 4-piece now. You've got Roine and his brother Michael with Hasse Froberg and drummer Mirko de Maio, and that's basically the entire band. You've got Lale Larsen on keyboards on 2 tracks. Roine Stoltz played with him before in Agents of Mercy. And then you've got a couple of vocal surprises on here, not least of which is Michael Stolt getting a lead on a couple of tracks. You've got a female vocalist on a lot of these tracks called Jannica Lund. She was on the last album, but only here and there. Here you hear female backing vocals a lot on this album. But the penultimate track is the biggest surprise. You have a guest appearance from Marjana Semkina from that great Russian duo I Am the Morning. You've got Hasse Brunison on one track, the great percussionist, and you've got another guest, Jorgen Salde, playing nylon acoustic guitar on one track. Great artwork, man. Look at this artwork. It is so cool. Guy named Joey Tessier did it. Apparently, he reached out to Roine Stolt 6-8 months ago, said that his dad was a really big fan of the Flower Kings, and I guess he had just passed away. So he sent him some artwork, and the son did. I guess dad couldn't. And Roine loved it, so that was the origin of that. Now, as you probably noticed, there's no Zach Kamens in the band. He was asked if he wanted to record on this album, but the decision was made to keep the Flower Kings a Swedish band. It was getting really difficult to tour and whatnot, especially with an American in the band. Yeah, Mirko de Maio's Italian, but, you know, I guess it's a little easier in the EU to travel around than an American. No Jonas Rheingold at all. He only played on a couple tracks on the last album, so we knew he was sliding out the door with that heavy workload he's doing over there with Steve Hackett. And this album here is only 68 minutes long. Roine Stolt is calling it a single album, but man, where I come from, a single album is like 40 minutes, man. So 68 minutes is, to me, kind of a weird running time. Again, we're still in CD mind state here, I guess. But it starts out great. All right. It starts out really good with a song called Beginner's Eyes. This was the first single that was dropped, and I got pretty excited. You know, I figured, okay, this is a real nice up-tempo track. It starts with a bunch of real freaky tonal shifts. You're kind of running around the circle of fifths there for a while, and then we finally settle down in D major, and you get to hear Hasse and Roine singing about hometown synergy. It's kind of good. And this song's got keys all over the place, and you realize, you know, that's Roine Stolt playing all those keys, all those tricky little runs. Roine has said before, he's gone on the record before and saying that the majority of the keyboards that you've been hearing on Flower Kings records over the years, it hasn't been Thomas Bodine, it hasn't been Zach Kamens, it's been Roine Stolt. I don't know how true that is, but hearing Roine and Hasse's voices blending so well on this track, it's a good one, man. I really dig it. Next up is The Dream. This was the second single, and it's definitely more laid back, very chill, downbeat, kind of somber, but at the same time, very stately. You've got a very traditional chord progression going on here. We go from D to G to E minor to C. We've heard that chord progression a whole bunch, but Hasse Froberg's singing real sweetly here with Roine Stolt taking the lead, Hasse hitting all the high notes. It's just great. And then Hasse takes his turn singing the second verse. You got kind of like a classic middle eight going on here. And then at the end of the song, you got the first appearance of the main theme on the album. Do, 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 do. That sequence there shows up in 4 different songs. This is the first appearance here, and then it leads right into the third track, Hollow Man. And I love this song. This is the only song with Hasse Brunison on it. Him with his crazy rack of weird percussions, always adding zaniness to the festivities. But here, this is kind of a straightforward song. It starts out in 6/8 with the keyboards, that kind of thing. Kind of making me think of Black Swan off of Islands. It's cool because Hasse's singing and he's, really emotive here. The verses are in a minor key. You're in G minor. And then it shifts to the chorus and you're in B flat major. It's such an amazing shift. It's great. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's playful. The chorus is glorious. Just amazing. And that's kind of the theme of this album. Is the vocal melodies seem to be taking priority over everything else here. And I'm okay with it. Are there too many ideas? Are there too many melodies? Are there too many themes? Well, this song might be guilty of it a little bit. So many different things. We're just a flicker of light ends it. And Hollow Man is probably my favorite track on the album. Really dig it a lot. The next song is a instrumental called Dr. Rebedu. It's in 14/8 time. And this is the first time we hear Lale Larson on keyboards. And he adds a real nice, you can definitely tell the difference. He's using completely different patches on his keyboards than Roine is using. There's a weird accordion patch that he uses in this track that's pretty cool. It's kind of a jazz fusion kind of thing, but for the most part, it's kind of unmemorable. Now we get to the 5th track, and really the first big surprise here. This is a song written by Michael Stolt, sung by Michael Stolt. He plays bass, he plays keys, he plays everything on here. He plays the bass, obviously. It's kind of a cool song. Apologies from humankind to Mother Earth and Father Sky. The song starts with a little a cappella section, and it ends with an a cappella section. It's up-tempo, and it's a little different, man, just hearing Michael Stolt singing. The only other time I've really heard his voice is on that Capo de Capo album, but he was singing in Swedish, so this is the first time I've heard him sing in English. Next up is another instrumental called The Queen, and this is where we're using Jorgen Salde on the nylon string. He's playing a classical guitar here. Really great. Sounds fantastic. Obviously making me think a little bit of Steve Hackett here with the classical structures here. Melodies just drift in and out. Really nice. The piece floats along fantastic. And then the last minute of the song, the drums kind of kick in. And it's a really good track. Very powerful. Next up is another one of those real melodic songs that you could hear, maybe in a parallel universe on the radio called The Light in Your Eyes. The bass is cool because he's hanging out on C sharp. Hasse sings the title. The song really is structured odd. There's no actual verses here. It's kind of like a soundscape. There's a middle section that's real atmospheric. And then Hasse Froberg just rips his vocal cords to shreds on this track. And then right at the very end, Roine sings that main theme again, that do 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 do, and that's a second appearance. So when the Flower Kings do that, when they keep bringing melodies back, you got to pay attention because they're cluing you in on what's important on this album. And this is going to be really important and critical to judging this whole album as as an entire piece, which I don't think they really want you to do. It's not a concept album. The songs don't really crossfade into one another, but it's the Flower Kings, so we're always looking for stuff like that. Season End is next. Has a real cool Hammond intro. real shape-shifting and languid. We're in E minor here, and this is a cool track because Hasse and Roina trade vocal lines. They don't do that a whole lot, but they do it here. There's a little Baroque theme that comes back, and somewhere in the song there's a little jazzy Fake Me Out where they play like, a measure and a half of some real cool jazz fusion thing, and then it just stops and it goes right back into the vocal thing. It's a song that promises much, doesn't deliver like I want it to. It's all right. The ninth song is called Scars. It's 5 minutes long. It starts like a blues rock thing. Again, we're in E minor. And then you get another one of those classic Flower Kings themes where you just know, even though the bass and the guitar are going in different directions, by the end of the little melody, they're going to be playing in unison. There's a vocal middle section here that does remind me of Season's End. I think is a little recall from the previous track. And the band does kind of cut loose here. You've got Lale Larson on this track, is his second appearance here. Again, he's using weird patches, man. He uses a really weird brass patch here that's bizarre. And then Michael Stolt gets to sing a little bit on this song with Hasse. I like it, but now we're getting on to another song in a minor key called Stronghold, and maybe this is problematic because we're used to the Flower Kings being bright and shiny and happy, and we got all these minor key melancholic songs in a row. But this one's different, man. Stronghold is definitely different. This is a fantastic song. It starts with a mellotron and harpsichord intro, and then Michael goes into this pedal point where he's staying on A flat, but the music's moving all around him, A to E to E flat, so you got that really cool dissonance. So if you're doing dark and heavy, man, you need to keep it harmonically interesting, and they definitely do that here. Roina's talking about chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole. Fantastic drumming on this track. Mercury de Mayo sounds really, really good. Roina rips a good guitar solo here, which is weird because not a whole lot of guitar soloing on this album. Next up is Father Sky. We finally get back into major key territory. It's a short little track, like 3 minutes long. Definitely necessary after the brutal onslaught of melancholy that preceded it. This is another track with Michael Stolt singing. Hasse singing along. You got a big chunk of Janica Lund singing here, and she sounds great. It's a cool bass line. We're in G here. We're in 7/8. And pray for love, pray for mankind, pray for love, pray for sunshine, all that happy flower, hippie, trippy stuff that we love from these guys. And then the song just kind of ends as it devolves into chaos. And that leaves us to the most important piece on this entire album, the penultimate track. It's only 3 minutes long. But this is where the main theme has been culled from. They're cluing you in. They're telling you what you need to focus on and what you need to pay attention on. And it's weird. Usually they point to like the epic, right? Like on, what is it? The Truth Will Set You Free. All those different themes come back. And on Stardust We Are, you hear some of those themes all throughout the album. And finally, when you get the 25-minute epic, you've heard some of those themes before. We're focusing on a 3-minute song here as the centerpiece. This is where Mariana Semkina from I Am the Morning sings. And it's basically a duet between her and Roina. And it sounds so good, man. This is a fantastic song. In another universe, this would have been a huge hit. Obviously, this is the centerpiece of the entire track. You've got Mercury de Mayo playing the Marshall drumming, on the snare. You've got a little French horn sounding thing going on there with some strings. It kind of makes me think of Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush, but in the best kind of way. I love this track. It's amazing. It's the best thing here. Probably. I don't know. I really like Stronghold too. Anyway, finally, it ends with the quasi-epic. It's 11 minutes and 50 seconds. It's the title track. It starts with that main theme again, only played once, but in a different key. And then you get a little acoustic guitar thing where you're in one, basically toggling between 1 and 4. You're in C sharp major here. So we're going C sharp to F sharp. They throw in a little, B flat minor in there just to keep you busy. But this is a real life affirming kind of feel. This is what the Flower Kings do. And then it gets kind of dark and heavy again as we go into a minor key. We're in G minor, where Hasse's singing about footprints in the snow and these eyes are not so friendly. It's kind of cool. But then it drops off at the 5-minute mark, and you get another acoustic guitar section. Again, toggling between 1 and 4, only this time you're in A, and Royna's singing, so it's a little different than the first time. Singing about carry on, and a brighter day has begun and all that stuff. There's a 2-minute outro after we're done with all that kind of stuff. A real come down, like a, aperitif, if you will, just kind of cleansing your palate after a great meal. And then you hear voices in the background, give up, give up, give up, give in. And you hear some things like floating away at the end of the album, making me think of the very first track on the very first Flower Kings album, where you hear that, welcome back to the world, welcome back. Kind of the same thing, and the album ends, and it makes me wonder, did we really need a couple of those tracks, Season End and Scars? If you take those 2 songs out, you're still like a 58-minute album. I think it flows better without those 2 songs. You don't get that drudgy, sludgy middle that this album really suffers a little bit from. It doesn't stick the landing either. Not a huge fan of the title track, but I really do love the front half of this album. Those first 6 songs are dynamite. I really enjoy them. Stronghold's really, really good. And then you get that beautiful song with Mariana Semkina, Day for Peace. There's some really, really great stuff on here, but how am I going to score this new Flower Kings album? Well, it's not as good as By Royal Decree, but I do like it better than the couple that preceded it, Islands and Waiting for Miracles. So I'm going to give this a very enthusiastic 4 headphones. Could have been 4.5, but just a couple things, keeping it from that really, really high score. 4 sounds right, it feels right, so I'm sticking with it. Anyway, I love you guys. I will see you on Sunday for Prog Stream Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or no, are we daylight time? I don't even know. Yeah, it's daylight time. I just wish they'd do away with that nonsense and just have one time. It's stupid. Anyway, I will see you then. Until then, you guys behave yourself. Be good, kind to seniors and like me, and children and the disabled and animals. Those that need defending. Let's defend them. In the meantime, guys, peace in the Middle East. Free Tibet, and God save the king, save that king, save him. Maybe we're talking about the King of Sweden. Maybe we're talking about King Charles III. I don't know, but I'll see you guys Sunday. Peace.